after that, it is just one landmark for the victory, for Viper to get the dub. And it has to be pointed out that with the range on these trebuchets and the Palisade walls down, he actually can get close enough to snipe the Abbey of Trinity. Golden League round 1 has finished. It's time for people to get their partners and do the fancy dances around the maypole as we get into scrim time. With Viper and Beastie Cutie going up against each other. The Snake is going to take the English. Beastie, well, he's going to be man and his favorite boys, the Roos. Let's hop into this game. I feel like it has become Beastie's favorite, right? Like, ever since the Mongolian Heights meta, he really hard pivoted into playing a lot of the Roos. But this is not Mongolian Heights. As you can see, we are here for some Dry Arabia. And on Dry Arabia, well, that's where things get a little bit more spicy with the Roos. People have started to innovate the builds, and they've come up with different assessments. Some people are still trying to make the ball play work, which in this generation may not be too bad because it's a little bit more central. But the more popular build I've seen is the Guz build, right? Ethan's build, where you go into the broad axes, the wooden fortress, and you manipulate your ability to just generate a lot of wood early on to then amass a feudal army for a ram rush. That could be interesting and actually could be quite successful against the English, because if you go for the standard English opening, you're looking towards the Lombos. And the Lombos, although they are a quality premium unit in the feudal age for range, they do lack an ability to zerg. Most English builds don't allow for additional archery ranges that allow them to just keep up with the quantity with which a Roos player can push out. By the way, yes, I did say this is a Beastie Cutie series. This guy right here, AI Easy, we've seen that name before, but no, it's not the return of that account. This is simply just Beastie choosing to name himself something else, because if he names himself Beastie, everyone dodges them. Poor guy. Maybe he should just return to name himself Core. I feel like that one was working really well for him. People love Core. You know, you queue into him in a 1v1, and he's AFK for the first 10 minutes. I only jest with him because I know he can take it. I hope he can take it. Anyway, Viper, I want to see what the open is going to be here, right? Like, are you going to be playing your standard, or are you going to be maybe going for a TC boom, or you go into, like, stables? I like the Mr. build, actually, in this matchup, to be honest. I feel like a lot of people don't consider Horseman a viable unit at the moment for the English, which is baffling to me. Like, you're actually able to float more food than most civs at the 10-minute mark due to your transition quickly into farmlands, in conjunction with your ability to, you know, boost the gathering on those farms. Not only are they cheaper, being only, you know, the 37 wood compared to the 75, but then also, on top of it, you gather from them quicker with the mill. So it feels like Horsemen just make the most sense. That's kind of the wacky part for me about the English, is that everyone's been playing around a wood-heavy Civ. Or wood-heavy macro, rather, to the Civ. Even though they get no added benefits to the wood gathering. They don't get an additional drop-off like the Roos. They don't have like this supervised function such as the Chinese that can get an additional drop-off on anything. They don't have an increased gathering rate like Holy Inspiration gives to the HRE. Essentially, they're one of the worst civs for gathering wood in the game. And yet, time and time again, we see people just hard invest into this build with only Lombos and then outposts into Rams. So, kind of curious to see how that's going to mix up. I wouldn't be surprised if the devs adapt something about them that kind of encourages that type of play, right? Whether it's maybe changing the way that the Abbey of Kings works would be a good start, so that people feel more compelled to actually pick that instead of Council Hall, and then they open the Rise. But from what I've been hearing with the test server, some people were experimenting with a Man-at-Arms rush build that allowed you to get your first Vanguard Man-at-Arms onto your enemy's gold line about 1.5 minutes in the game, which is actually quick enough, as you can see on these tech up numbers, to deny a feudal age. So kind of curious to see if that will actually be the emerging build, and maybe the English suddenly become just absolutely hated and banned because they're hard to counter at that stage. But I'd rather this Civ has a lot more flesh to it than that, right? I hate that kind of cheesy nature where it's like, yeah, you know, you just build Vanguard Man-at-Arms and your opponent GG's out of 5 minutes. If we arrive at that in the upcoming patch, all we're doing is reverting to exactly the issue we had with the English when the game first came out, which is Rams are too strong and Lombos are too good with Rams. So, moving in by Beastie, trying to yoink the Wolf, not able to do so by the looks of it though. So he has been denied from the tier 2 bounty right now. Now, curious to see, yep, it is going to be the ball pull. Only 5 people though. Interesting from Beastie, he's not maximizing the food income he could be getting here. So usually when you bring out 8 people, that's enough to surround the boar and then it takes you about 5.1 minutes without additional food gathering rates to extract the boar. With 5 people instead, the number should be somewhere closer to 6. And that means that this food source will last you longer, and in theory, you shouldn't have to transition as quickly. I think this play makes more sense if your plan is to, instead of like immediately drop a military base here, you're looking to actually just exploit gradual value without all-inning on a forward proxy base. And then straight away into the Wood Fortress. This is the other reason, by the way, why you usually bring 8 people when you're the Roost, because if you bring 8 people, there's enough room for everyone in a single outpost, whereas any other Civ has to build 2. Okay, so there it is. Interesting. So Beasty, I guess he was just trying to min-max his gathering rates. He kept the other 3 people back. It is going to be 8, which means he will be able to gather up the entirety of the boar in 4.1 minutes. Was it 5.1? Oh, no, my numbers. You can tell I'm feeling rough today. My brain, it's like in chill mode right now. You gather very quickly, folks. It's a ridiculous amount of food to get. I'm pretty sure it's 5.1 minutes because you gather about 400 food per minute like this. Meanwhile, Beasty is going to move forward, check in on what Viper's doing, and, well, it's nothing unexpected out of the English player here. A few Lombos to protect, but outside that, it's all about padding yourself and getting down the farms as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, back in the base of good old Beasty, it is going to be time for the stable, so he's going to look to rush in and get a little bit aggressive. Understandable as well when you take these forward sort of positionings. And right now, he doesn't see any reason to be scared. But there it is. Viper is now going to drop the racks, almost like he senses a disturbance in the force, because he definitely doesn't see it. And I wonder if this is informed by the fact that he sees this extension here onto the boar. He feels like he's going to have a composite force to come out and fight. Otherwise, he's going to be at a huge disadvantage as this game goes on in the next 5 minutes. And yeah, Lombos are going to be in position. Lombos won't really be able to extract value here, though. Like, the Wooden Fortress has enough range to cover against even the longbow range of 7 tiles. If this Wooden Fortress was nearer to the wood line, then there would be an angle you could exploit. But it feels like if you rush out now, you're just going to sacrifice these to the Great God Beasty. And he will be going for those knights. So not even looking towards the horsemen. Instead, it's just going to be heavy investment. It's kind of interesting to see that actually these Roost players rarely ever choose to go for the horseman, even though it's more cost efficient. There are situations where I think it's better, but overall, as an opener, I understand early night because it just gives you the tank ability and the flexibility compared to like a lot of different compositions coming at you, right? Like if you go into horseman, you can easily counter it. And the other difference maker here is early knights, at least 2 or 3 of them to begin with, at least. It gives you an ability to dive in and kill villages. If you arrive with 2 horsemen compared to 1 knight, you're not going to kill a villager instantly. This combo won't instantly kill it, but 3 hits in, it's dead. And everything's pretty chill and pretty vibrant right now for Beasty. I feel like he's hitting his timings pretty nicely. You can see the archery range spam coming out. This isn't on the proxy base, which is going to delay his timing, and will give a bounce back point for Viper. I feel like this is a little bit too safe maybe out Beasty. He could risk putting 1 or 2 archer ranges at the forward base here, and then push in. Because now the issue he runs into is if he doesn't achieve critical mass ahead of his opponent, when he runs across, his opponent will have the counter in place by the time he arrives. Now, I feel like Viper, if he continuously just regurgitates Lombos for the next 2 to 3 minutes, he should be safer against what's coming. However, if he has any gaps in his production of Lombos, he will get outmassed. By the way, I'm noticing some people curious about the gathering rates. So boar is pretty substantial. It's 0.9 food per second compared to deer, where it's about 0.83, I believe it is. But compared to deep fish, it's nothing. Deep fish is still like 1.1, if I recall correctly. So it's actually a lot higher than anything else. It's like scouts are getting vision, so Viper's kind of seeing what's happening here. And we do get the broad axe. Like, we Didn't check when it came out from BC. I'm expecting this came out about 2 or 3 minutes ago, maybe. And this is a really efficient tech to get as the Roost. I've talked about this before on streams, on official casts, but usually you get 15% increase on your gathering rates with any Civ. But because you already, on top of that, get an additional 20% drop-off with the Wooden Fortress, it's more like 18%. So actually, it's a more cost-efficient tech choice for the Roost than practically any other Civ in the game. And Longbows are on the move. Interesting choice here. So instead of waiting for Beasty to reach critical mass, Viper's going on the aggressive. I like this move. If he can find access. And the Ram is trying to get access right now in the Winter Fortress. Wait, what happened to villagers? Did they retreat around? They must have ran around and got back. I'm looking, the villager number difference doesn't make sense otherwise. So he must have retreated the villagers back successfully while we were busy nerding out about numbers. It looks like the extension is going to be taken out. He did get reasonable ball value, only up to 1,200, 1,250. I feel like you didn't get the full value you're looking for. Usually you want to be at about 1,500 achieved. And this is where actually the build which Marine Lord started doing is actually really efficient. He goes for survival techniques. And it's actually pretty cost efficient for what you get back. Considering that it only costs 150 resources, in the time that BC was there, he probably would have gained an extra 250 resources at least, which means it would have paid for itself in exchange. So kind of a missed trick there. Means he doesn't get the full bang for buck. He at least gets decent value, which has scaled him for the moment, but it now means that Viper's kind of kept him in check. The power creep isn't continuing, and it means that PC's going to have to rethink this because he needs to stabilize his economy. And this is where you might contemplate something like Pro Scouts, just because your opponent has all these deer that aren't going to be gathered by them. But I wonder if it feels too late, because now the numbers are building. It might be that PC gets dragged into this feudal aggression, and that might play to Viper's advantage. Especially considering he's now transitioned into early man-at-arms, something we do not see too frequently out of the English. Cool idea behind this, by the way. If you can't breach your opponent's base and you build up a decent number of man-at-arms, when you initially, or eventually rather, castle up, you are going to have a huge boost to your military force. Because that's where you really get the edge, right? Is you're going to be able to get your hands on armor-clad and the full man-at-arms upgrade, which means these units become suddenly juiced. AFK Ram right now, but Viper is getting those Viper outposts down. And right now, I feel like Beasty, he's waiting for this, right? Like, you can see he's just amassing numbers. He's not being baited out at all. He understands the fight is going to have to come to him because he has scalability right now. And once he takes a good fight, that's when he can push out. This is where these outposts are really critical for Viper. It gives him soft reset points, it delays the assault, and it also gives him vital info on what's going to be coming towards his base. A healthy spear count is not seen here, really. Only 5. But there's not many knights, right? So you don't have to worry about that. It's just the archer exchange. And this is what Beasty was waiting for. He sees this line. He's not impressed. He's going to ride in. Archers picking apart the spears. Man-at-arms in the mixer. Sees them. Sees how pricey they are. Viper not sure whether he wanted to double down on the timing here. He was looking to save up for castle. And now he's going to be chased all the way back to his base. And everything's going to be burnt. You see snipe out the scout as he's stuck in formation with the Ram. The Ram's going to be burnt to a crisp. Archer's going to keep chasing away anything that they see as Viper's forces are too slow to retreat. In the meantime, one measly knight is doing a lot of damage to that gold line, butchering the villagers, and they're building an outpost instead of garrisoning. They'll finally shift off. Archers will peel back now. Needs to be careful in the retreat as Viper does have the line formation and longer range with those longbows. But Beasty, after he gets rid of the front line, he's looking to dive in. He gets enough wiggle room to back off without getting any further fire into his archers. And that single knight gave him a clear edge now. Up 8 eco units over the Viper. These knights, in the meantime, will clean up those outposts. No arrow slits upgrades coming out. And Beasty, this timing was perfect. Notice what he does in conjunction with this. It's not just the shift out to get aggression away from his base. It's also the fact that now he has the midfield again. And he uses that midfield, instantly moving out into the berry patches further away from his base. Smart play. Really good timing, and it shows you exactly what it takes to be at the top of the leaderboards, right? Most players are looking for these one-off type values, right? I do this, and it forces you to do that. The best players will make one move and gain multiple things from it. This aggression not only subverted Viper's scaling in the feudal age militarily, it also gave the breathing room for Beasty to move out to vital resources as his initial ones dried up. And when you look at it now, you can see the big difference maker here. Beasty is already almost complete with the tech up. Viper only about to just access the required quantity of resources to go for himself. And this is going to leave him behind. And there it is. Castle Age confirmation comes out. And Viper, he goes for the white tower. And you saw the cancellation. The timing on this. He wanted the King's Palace. He wanted it so damn badly. But the moment the tech up is complete by Beasty, he pivots because of the sizable army Beasty already has out in the field and the fact that he's now clearly technologically ahead. And this is do or die. Like, this can actually turn the game for you, like making this split decision choice. A lot of players would have played this ultra greedy, and I have to say that Viper has historically been one of those players. A lot of people have been critical about how greedy he can be when he plays a lot of these civs that require that tempo aggression. But I respect that he's actually adapted the game style a lot in the last few months, and it shows in this choice right here. Viper, at December time, maybe even January time, probably would have still went for the King's Palace. But the Viper of here and now understands that without the White Tower, his base will fall in the coming minutes. And Beasty, time to start layering those wooden fortresses because he wants his opponent to come out, and what does he now have? He has religious advantage. He did go for the Abbey of Trinity. That is going to give him all these juicy relics, but more important than that, it also gives him a win condition. He can actually force the hand of Viper to now come out. And this is an important detail. Had it been a situation where you couldn't access all these sacred sites, all of a sudden Viper's investment in the White Tower feels even better because you don't have an easy breach into his base. But now, because you can access and take those sacred sites, it forces Viper to come out before he's ready, and it means that this White Tower, while it will protect his main base, is going to force him to aggress sooner than he maybe would like. Right now, Viper, you can see how much of a deficit he's facing on the military side as well. 29 to the 47. And it has to be said, this won't change anytime soon, and Beasty, it's so typical Beasty. This guy loves going for that castle age timing and then falling back to TC boom. And this is really strong here. He did go onto the stone to get it, but if you want to do this as Roost, you don't even need to necessarily. You can do the trades, right, with the Golden Gate. But this works out nicely. It's going to also allow him to gather the rest of his stone, and then he can drop a keep at the central sacred site, which will give him a soft staging point into the military base of the Viper. In the meantime, wrap around. Beasty denies on the wood line. Lava had shifted away, though. But still, Viper, he's trailing. And the problem now is he went for the White Tower and Beasty went for the TC. I don't know if he did see this. I wouldn't be surprised if Beasty got eyeballs on the fact that his opponent had the White Tower, though, and then makes the informed decision. But either way, like, from Beasty's perspective, it's a win-win despite the choice made by your opponent. If he goes for a King's Palace, you building a TC keeps your eco lead. If he goes to the White Tower and you build a TC, you have the clear dominant economy lead as the game continues on. So either way, it feels like a win-win situation for the Roost player. And even bigger wins here. As the Knights are picking apart a bunch of these Lombos, paying for themselves essentially. Although the fire does start to hurt. That means these Knights are going to be going down. No chivalry. This isn't the French, so no chance to heal on the field. BC doing a good job of keeping an eyeball on what's coming next. Really important detail here. Big difference maker as well. You can see it, in fact. This is where BC gets dominant. This is his methodical understanding of the game. Whether he's playing blind and he plays on instinct, or he's allowed to feed this much information back to his base, he always prioritizes what his opponent is doing and anticipates what's coming next. And that's what he's done with this layout. The vision factor he's gaining for these wooden fortresses and the scout on the forward, you can see the difference on the minimap. Viper is playing blind. He's having to predict, assume what his opponent is doing. And to that information extraction we talked about from BC, it's also the fact that he is classifying his own information. When was the last time he shoot anything but Knights? Right now, Viper doesn't know if more archers are coming, if there's a crossbow transition, if there's siege in the mixer. He's playing everything without vision. And that's why when Viper moves out blindly like this, he does it with great paranoia. And it will be the double Maga now. Now, the question is whether BC anticipates this and gets his own counter siege ready. He himself is going to the Magos. Needs to be careful with this, actually, because he can get caught off guard. He needs to make sure he has enough Knights to buffer against this. Or Horsemen. Either one, he needs a cavalry unit that can gap close. Because right now, although he keeps all this vision, Viper is doing a phenomenal job of not revealing his hand just yet. That being said, Viper, oh no, he thinks he's making an efficient flank here. Be seen. They see it all. So it looks like he's about to reveal his hand. The Sprilled upgrade will reveal what is ahead of them. And Viper, he should keep those Mangonels hidden. Really important detail here. He does not reveal the full extent of his hand. This is the ace up his sleeve. And they'll need it to make the difference. You can already see Greased Axles being researched on one side, but I don't think it's being taken on the other, because the important detail here, Viper's kind of playing that same issue that maybe a Mongol player can run into, or a Basset player, where you don't have the tech upgrades of a Siege Workshop because you're not building a Siege Workshop. As you're noticing here, from him producing the Counterweight Trebuchets, one of the benefits of playing the English is your keeps function as every military building under one structure. So what he's been doing is he's been producing the Mangonels out of this because otherwise he'd have to invest 300 wood just to access Siege. A very pricey investment for him, especially considering he's on 1 TC and his initial wood lines will dry up soon. So what does he do? Min-maxes that situation, make sure he saves 300 wood, but then the trade-off is he doesn't have access to greased axles, adjustable crossbars later on, like anything he wants. The main one, of course, right now being greased axles, as the other three are hidden behind Imp Age. And if you're wondering how much of a difference it makes, here you go. 0.9, 0.75. It's a notable difference maker. And look at the move in. Mago shot coming out. Long range, holy crap. It's a super Mangonel there. Shots, heavy, damage done. Beasty takes the hit, goes straight in range though, needs to be careful. Mago peeling back, damage done here as it looks like Beasty gets a little bit gluttonous. He definitely is gluttony for punishment right there. Like, he thought that maybe he could just pepper it down quick enough, but not respecting the fact that your archers are reduced to 1 damage per shot on these Mangonels. Now moving in. So Mago forced to retreat. Slow turnaround. And just as it turned, it might get burned here. Man-at-arms on top of it. They'll torch it instantly. Big mistake made there. And it looks like Beasty's going to have to give over more ground. The Wooden Fortress on fire, not going to last long here. Mangonel shots coming in the meantime onto the Archer Battalion. Will force them further away. And one measly knight will not deal with the Lombos. It looks like Viper is striking back. And Horsemen finally coming out. Maybe a little bit delayed here. They can gap close, but there's not enough of them. The quantity is not high enough to get through the Magos, and it means they're going to live again long enough to wipe the main army of Beastie. Spreel's a little bit too late here. And they'll start getting cleaned up as the Lombos target them out. Mangonel's still getting the trades. Lombos trying to save the day, but the Mangonel's going to go down. And all of a sudden, with the remaining forces, Beastie might be able to turn it around. If he keeps the Horsemen pushing out, he can push him back. But right now, Viper is the one with the critical mass. More men-at-arms coming in to renew the Lombo line, and that means that it looks like Beastie might have to forfeit the front of his base. Beastie. Oh, you know what he's up to, folks. Onto the stone, ready to go for a keep drop when he sees an opportunity. Considering Viper's whole army is away from base, he won't expect it either. And even if he does, it's going to be too late to respond to it. Horsemen Knights moving into the Lombos. Archers firing out in the front line in the meantime. Spreel was able to trade reasonably against the man-at-arms as well due to the high damage. Although the Knights are being cleaned up, they are biting vital time that is needed for Beastie right now to rebuild his army at home. But his man-at-arms, you've seen the effect. The armor-clad, reaching full castle status, having 7 missile resistance, 6 melee, makes them a hell of a tanky unit here. Villagers even joining in with their little bows. We'll turn around now. The keep is being constructed. Trebuchets moving in. Beastie needs an answer sooner, is in trouble. And Beastie, he doesn't have an answer just yet. He's shifted all these villagers over here. He's been going pocket economies everywhere. He didn't expect to lose the fight in the center the way he did. Because of the poor optimization, the way that he was able to utilize this one Mangonel, and the fact he sacrificed so many archers in the initial bout, it means that all of a sudden Viper has a forward keep route outside his opponent's base. And a Treb sieging through in the meantime. And the Congo line continuing here as Viper, although he's economically behind, he refuses to be ousted militarily. And this keep, this is exactly what he needed. Remember, he's been taking these fights without the benefit of attack speed buffer. Those ones around the center, he didn't have his outpost down. He was fighting without that juiced up attack speed, but now he has it. And he has it on everything in range, and that range is big. The Trebs will get juiced up as well, and it means they can siege through more quickly. Wooden Fortress is going to be burnt down. No way to protect it. And this is where the weaknesses of the base optimization comes to bite you in the butt. You want the siege workshops on the front, so they moved in quicker. But that now means that 300 wood structure is easily burnt to a crisp. And you're going to need some new ones at the back of your base. And that's a concern in detail here, because BC has ran out of wood quickly. He needed this wood line. And this is the thing. Viper, he might not realize it fully just yet, but this guy's the go. He knows when he has an advantage, and he'll feel it when he sees a lack of anti-siege coming out from his opponent, that it must be that BC is woodlocked. And that's exactly what we can see with our God Vision. Because he already extracted the first wood line, there is no secondary wood line access, and the third one is over here in no man's land. He's in trouble. Sacred Sight will finally be neutralized, so no win condition there anymore. And the Trebs are a problem. And you have to wonder, like, how close are we to GG territory? Like, how can BC now recover this? Every single siege engine he's producing is worth its weight in gold now. And the only reason he's still alive right now, by the way, is this glorious building here. That is giving him some decent trades for the wood that he desperately needs. The problem is a lot of things he wanted to build need wood, right? He was producing the archers before. Now he has to transition hard on knights. He has got food and gold to boot. A lot of gold, in fact. And that's where he needs to try and rebalance his economy right now. Because he got 5 relics, he's juiced on the gold front. And this is one of the issues, by the way. When people play like this and they get their hands on all of these relics, they feel very content in having their own base. Now you see the weakness of this exact play. You need to move out. You need to get room for your farmlands. You need to get all the wood for your siege and your farms to be built. And that is the issue that Beasties ran into here. And you can see that Viper fully understands it. He's going to encamp himself. He's like it or not, buddy, I am here to stay and I'm going nowhere. And a keep has been built. So BC, yes, beauty. This is exactly what you expect to see out of one of the top 10 players in the game. He uses all those villagers on the front to move around and set up a new wood line right next to his opponent's base. This detail is critical. Without this, he would be dead. But this might be his resurrection, but he needs to be fast. Golden Gate is about to burn. After that, it is just one landmark for the victory for Viper to get the dub. And it has to be pointed out that with the range on these trebuchets and the palisade walls down, he actually can get close enough to snipe the Abbey of Trinity. And that might force a suboptimal fight for Beastie in the next 2 minutes. He shifts out into the field. Lombos, Viper, getting a little bit greedy, a little bit overly aggressive here. Patience is needed. Patience will be shown. Moves back for the moment. Springle's chasing him in, trying to pin him in. Mago's looking for desirable fire here. Shot coming out. Reasonable sidestep by the Viper. Needs to get more damage out. Needs the Mago out of the way so he can pursue forward. Moves in for it now. Knight's trying to counter this out. Brace comes out to hold them back. Small choke points to move through, but Mangonel's down. Springle's trying to snipe out the trebuchets. They need the trade. Any trade they can get. The Knights might not be able to do this, though. And the Springles, although they will survive and they are able to snipe out the trebuchets, the main army is being mincemeat right now. More spears coming out, man-at-arms as well, and they are flooding through. BC's front line is folding fast, and he has to retreat the Springles before he loses them. And after that, 4 Trebs are still standing for the Viper. Patience from the Viper has paid off, and it means he can now roll them back up and start to open fire. Villagers moving in, trying to repair the Golden Gate. He needs the trade, but he can't get it. That wood line halfway through done. 3,000 gold in the bank now for Beastie. It's the only thing he has a surplus of. Maybe he can bribe another player to hide him on his map, because he's going to need someone to run and hide soon. The Trebs are getting ready to unpack and unload, but they need to be careful. This wooden fortress going up has given a little bit of wiggle room for Beastie. And Viper, he may have gone a little bit too deep here. Needs to respect the fact that he can still be cut off. When the weakness of the Lombos is so slow they may be, they can easily be wrapped upon. And that's exactly what was beginning to happen there. So he will back away just in time. In the meantime, Viper will begin to treb siege through the wooden fortresses. I know, folks. Oh, how tedious it is. All we see these days. Trebuchets, Mangonels. God, I've seen enough siege for a lifetime. Beastie might not have to see that siege much longer in this game, at least. But right now, his own siege is his only hope. More wooden fortresses being built as he surrenders a little bit more of his base. That wood line is about to deplete. He's going to have to shift back, and that's going to leave a gap in his scalability, something that isn't really there for Viper. You can see he's already shifting across to the central tree lines. Still got a few straggler trees at the back. He's well floated right now. Barely needs anyone to do it as well. Can't believe I'm saying it, but we're 30 minutes into the game, and the English player only has 6 people on wood. Not something you see frequently. Static defenses and siege is what is keeping Beastie in this game right now. Let's see if it can hold much longer. Mangonels keeping the army at bay. Trebs can try to snipe out. Need to be careful. That many shots coming in, you could instantly lose the siege unit. That's why he backs up just in time. Can't afford to lose any as it stands. Still hasn't been able to rebank these 2 relics as he does lose the monastery. Golden Gate is almost reconstructed though. And also keep in mind his TC went down first. So as it stands, like Beasty, that eco lead, although he's maintained it, he hasn't continued to scale it further. And the issue he has is he's starting to extend it out into dangerous territory. Territory that Viper could instantly have control of if he ever reprioritizes his forces towards the flanks. Treb shots coming in again on the Golden Gate though. As soon as they were almost done repairing, they're going to be denied. Shots coming out. Beasty, is he turning this? These mangonels are beginning to become unanswered. The Russian's going to be there, but he has to back off. Viper, this is the mistake. He went in too deep. He chose to retreat too late, and now he's committed. Mangonels retreating away. Repair crew to keep it alive. Heavy damage done to Viper's army, and the mangonels might finish him off. Shots coming in. Tries to sidestep, but too many rocks fall from the sky, though. And that is a heavy hit. Viper, military pop count is evening up now. And Beasty, somehow, I don't know how, but he snuck a shovel into his coffin when he was being buried. And he is digging his way out of this grave. Viper, he needs a transition. He really does. I can't state it enough. Stone is maybe not the best solution right now, thinking about going for more keeps, but keeps could be your nightmare right now. A Mangonel force of 5 not only wipes your front army, it also obliterates a build force. And what does Viper do? He sticks his hands over his ears, he says la la la, as he mashes his head up against the hotkey which holds his trebuchets. And that right there, folks, that's an ambitious keep. If he somehow gets that up, it will be the miracle of the game. Trebs, the new Springles, not quite able to be as effective as Springles though, as the Magos will wheel away. And Beasty, he's getting out. He's actually getting out. It's forced the pull of repair forces to the front from Viper. And Viper really can't afford this. His economy is dwindling, and he's in trouble to keep at the front. Beasty stuck one in. He's going to cut off reinforcements. He sees all the villagers being pulled forward. One Mangonel round can mask everything. Viper is all in. The villagers moving forward. Forcing the Mangonels away. Trebuchet's going to retreat for the moment. Beasty, it's mainly just a siege army, a small contingent of crossbows to hold them back. Not enough people working on the keep just yet. The Mangonel fire, the keep fire as well. The spear's forced to commit here, but there's not enough of them. They're going to be wiped. And once they are wiped, this keep is going to be irrelevant. As Beasty, he may have just pulled a miracle out of his hat. He's moving in. Mangonel fire out onto the villages. It's not quick enough. Viper tries to sidestep, moves closer to Beasty's siege line, and it means that this fort keep, although it will go up, might not last long. And it means Viper will give over. Beasty under fire, somehow holds and turns it around. Age of Empires, my arse. This is Age of Siege. What a game. What a game out of Beasty. What a way to hold. Fully understands the meta, fully understands just how strong Siege is, sees what his opponent is doing, and says, anything you can do, I'm the Roos, baby, I'll do it better. And when he doubles down on his own Siege, he makes sure it's a composite force that keeps his opponent at bay before he looks to breach out through those keeps. Phenomenally done. So many players would have rushed to get the keep down. They would have went for the trebs first. They would have actually been in a treb on treb trade, and it wouldn't have worked out. They would have got rushed. But instead, Beasty, understanding how he needs to optimize his economy, how he's draining himself quickly, the way you win this game is by using static defenses to pad your military force. Do not invest in a throwaway army where you're just going to get Peppa Pig down by all these Lombos. Instead, he slowly but methodically builds up the Mangonels and the Spiral count to ensure there's never any creeping siege. And after that, he makes sure that he has a critical mass of Mangonels to prevent any push-in next to his keep, which is the decisive moment that turns this game. And you saw the desperation from Viper. He understands his economy is weaker. He knows about this second TC. He sees his opponent is on the flanks, and he sees that he's gathering everywhere. Why does Viper not go for Horseman? Why does Viper not flank? The issue with flanking here is if he goes for Horseman, it's a transition that leaves him weak. He's already barely holding the front line. If he goes for the flanks, he's doing so with static forces. Static forces that can get caught out of position and killed, or they're so far away from your forward keep, you lose the foothold in the front of the base, and all of a sudden Beasty, although he won't have access to all these desperation resources on the flanks, you've reacquired your front wood line, and you've bolstered your economy once more. Really frustrating situation for Viper to be in, and it's all because Beasty calculates the way this game needs to be played out. His TC timing isn't too early. It isn't too greedy. It allows him the scalability to make this flexible choice in the late game when Viper has to remain very static, very kind of disgruntled and stubborn about his approach to the game. It's not because he doesn't understand how bad the situation he's in. It's because he has no other options left because Beasty stripped them from the table.